Today we shall proceed to discuss the types of capitals required by the business organizations. Types of capitals required by the business organizations. The types of capital. The capital is divided into two types. The capital which is required by every business is divided into two groups or two types. Number one, fixed capital and working capital. Every business concern requires capital. Every business concern requires capital. Such capitals are two types. Such capitals are two types. Number one, fixed capital and working capital. Fixed capital in Kannada ಸ್ಥಿರ ಬಂಡವಾಳ. Then working capital in Kannada ದುಡಿಮೆಯ ಬಂಡವಾಳ. Like this, there are mainly two types. Now we shall proceed to discuss the first one, meaning of fixed capital. Meaning of fixed capital. What is meant by fixed capital? Fixed capital. Not. What is meant by fixed capital? The amount invested in purchase of and development of fixed assets is known as fixed capital. Not. The amount invested in the purchase of or development of fixed assets, that is called fixed capital. If you purchase any fixed assets, or if you incur any expenses for the purpose of purchasing fixed assets or for the purpose of developing that fixed asset, then it is called fixed capital. If your expense is related for fixed capital, then it is called fixed assets, then it is called fixed capital. Therefore, the amount invested in the purchase of or in the development of fixed assets is called fixed capital. Now coming to the other question, the amount invested in the fixed assets. Now here the question is, what is meant by fixed asset? What is meant by fixed asset? Fixed asset ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? ಸ್ಥಿರ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು, ಆಸ್ತಿಗಳು ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? Fixed assets. What is meant by fixed asset? Fixed assets are nothing but they are the assets. Fixed assets are nothing but they are the assets which remain in the business for a long time. Which remain in the business for a long time and which increases the profit earning capacity of the concern are called fixed assets. What is meant by fixed asset? What are fixed assets? Fixed assets ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ? ಈ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್ ಒಳಗ ಬಹಳ ವರ್ಷಗಳವರೆಗೆ ಇರ್ತಾವು, ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಇರ್ತಾವು ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಾಭ ಪರಿಣಾಮವನ್ನ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಾಭದ ಗರಿಷ್ಠತೆಯನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾವು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಾಭವನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾವು. ಯಾವ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಾಭವನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಆಗ್ತಾವು ಅಂತ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಸ್ಥಿರ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಸ್ಥಿರ ಆಸ್ತಿ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್? Fixed assets are nothing but they are the assets which remain in the business for a long time, and which increase the profit earning capacity of the concern. Such assets are called fixed assets. ಅಂತ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳೇ ಇಂಥ ಹೆಸರು. ಯಾವ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಬಹಳ ವರ್ಷ ಇರ್ತಾವೋ, ಯಾವ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಾಭವನ್ನ ಇಮ್ಮಡಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತಾವೋ ಅಥವಾ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತಾವೋ ಅಂತ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಸ್ಥಿರ ಆಸ್ತಿಗಳು ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. Then these assets increase the profit earning capacity of the business. No, these assets help in increasing the profit earning capacity of the concern. For example, what are the examples? The examples are like under plant and machinery, land and building, vehicles, furniture and fittings. These are all the examples for fixed assets. In short, fixed capital refer to investment in fixed assets. Fixed capital means investment in fixed assets is called fixed capital. Investment in fixed assets would also include expenditure in acquisition, expansion, modernization, and their replacement. If you incur any expense for the purpose of purchasing the fixed assets, or for expansion purpose, or for modernization, or for replacing the old with the new, these are all the examples for fixed capital. The true worth of the company is evaluated in terms of fixed assets. Fixed assets are the only basis to calculate the worth of the business. ನೋಡಿ, ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್ ಒಂದು ಕಿಮ್ಮತ್ತನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಅಸೆಟ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ತೀವಿ. ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ದ ರಿಯಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್. Fixed capital represented by fixed assets are the long-term requirements of the business. Fixed capital represented by fixed assets. Note, fixed capital it is represented by fixed assets. These fixed assets require long-term requirements of the business. These long-term funds are procured through the issue of shares, debentures, securities, and loans from banks. We can collect these long-term funds. How can we collect these long-term funds? We can collect these long-term funds by issue of shares, or by issue of debentures, securities, and loans from financial institutions, for example, bank. In this manner, we can collect the long-term funds. This is about the meaning of fixed capital in a single line or in a short. What is meant by fixed capital? Fixed capital is nothing but it is a capital which is invested. It is capital which is invested in the purchase of fixed assets, or which is developed of fixed assets, that is called fixed capital. If your expense is resulted in purpose of purchasing the fixed asset or developing the fixed assets, then it is called fixed capital. This is the meaning of fixed capital. Now coming to the next discussion, what are the factors affecting the fixed capital? The following factors are important to require the fixed capital. ನೋಡಿ, ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸುವ ಅಂಶಗಳು ಯಾವುವು, ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಥಿರ ಬಂಡವಾಳಕ್ಕೆ ಪರಿಣಾಮ ಬೀರುವ ಅಂಶಗಳು ಯಾವುವು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸುವ ಅಂಶಗಳು ಯಾವುವು. ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಡೆಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ದ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್? The fixed capital are factors affecting the fixed capital. The following points determine the fixed capital. Capital requirement of fixed capital. What are those? Those are number one, nature of business. Capital requirement is fully dependent on your nature of business. If your nature of the business is small, it requires small amount of capital. Similarly, if your business is big or large, in size, automatically you are in a required of fixed capital or heavy investment. Therefore, capital requirement depends upon the nature of business. The nature of the business determines the amount of fixed capital requirement. The nature of business determines the amount of fixed capital requirement. For example, trading concerns require small amount of fixed capital, as compared to public company or manufacturing company, because manufacturing companies or public companies require more fixed capital. No, trading company ಅವರು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಬಂಡವಾಳವನ್ನು ಬಯಸಿದರೆ, ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯವರು ಅಥವಾ ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ಕಂಪನಿಯವರಿಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಬಂಡವಾಳ ಬೇಕು. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಇದರ ನೇಚರ್ ಬೇರೆ, ಇದರದ್ದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್, ಇದರದ್ದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಾರಣ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಂಬರ್ 1 ನೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್. It is fully depend on your nature of the business, If it is small amount is required. If it is big amount is required. This is first one. Now coming to the second one, scale of operation. Scale of operation means functions carried out in your business. If they are small, the capital requirement is also small. If they are numerous, automatically capital requirement is also numerous or big. Big amount is required. Therefore, second thing is scale of operation in the concern. A concern of large size with large scale operations. A concern with large size means large scale trading company, large scale company requires more fixed capital because its operations are very large. On the other hand, a concern of small size requires less fixed capital. On the other hand, a concern of small size requires less fixed capital. If the operations of your concern is long, automatically you require long fixed capital. But if it is short, automatically you are required short. In case of large scale concerns, the operations are always heavy. The operations are very large. Therefore, large scale business organizations require heavy amount of fixed capital, big amount of fixed capital, whereas the small scale businesses requires less amount of fixed capital. This is second. Now coming to the third one, growth and expansion prospects. If you are involved in the expansion of your business concern, automatically it requires much amount of capital. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನೀವು ಬಯಸಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬೇಕು. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇಚ್ಛೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ growth and expansion of prospects. Higher growth of an organization generally requires higher investment in fixed assets. Higher growth, if you want to develop your organization, if you want to develop the size of your organization or expansion of your business, automatically it requires large amount of fixed capital. Similarly, if there is no growth and expansion, if there is no idea of growth or expansion, they do not require heavy amount of fixed capital. ನೋಡಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಇರದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಏನು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ನೀವು ಆ ಕನಸನ್ನ ಕಂಡ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಆ ಇಚ್ಛೆಗೆ ಕೈ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಯಾವ್ದು ನಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸಿನೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ಬೆಳೆಸೋಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನೀವು ಕೈ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲೇ, ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಬೇಕು. The next, choice of technique or method of production. Choice of technique. If you select a modern technique or well developed modern technique in your process of production, In your process of production, such process requires a heavy amount of fixed capital. Heavy, big amount of fixed capital. ನೋಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಈಗ ಸಹ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಬಿಳಿ ತಂತ್ರಜ್ಞಾನ ವಿಶೇಷ ತಂತ್ರಜ್ಞಾನ ಏನದ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಳಸಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಬಯಸಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಸ್ ಮಚ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ತಂತ್ರಜ್ಞಾನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಂಗ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಸ್ಪೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವಾಗ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಬಂದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅದು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬೇಕು. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್. A capital intensive organization requires higher investment in plant and machinery, thereby requirement of fixed capital for such organization would be higher. In short, if you select the choice of technique or modern techniques, if you want to set up modern techniques in your organization, it requires much amount of capital. On the other hand, labor intensive organizations require less amount of fixed capital. ನೋಡಿ, ಲೇಬರ್ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ನಿಮ್ಮದು ಶ್ರಮಿಕರ ಪ್ರಧಾನ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ದು ಹಿಂಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ ನೀವು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಕು. The next one, fifth one, method of acquiring fixed assets. ನೋಡಿ, ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡೋದು. If you purchase the fixed assets by cash and carry. If you purchase the fixed assets by cash, it requires much amount of fixed capital. ನೋಡಿ, ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನೀವು ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ರೊಕ್ಕ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಕು. But similarly, it requires less when you purchase the fixed assets on hire or on installment. ಉದ್ರಿ ತಂದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಉದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರದು ಅಥವಾ ಹೈಯರ್. If you purchase the fixed assets by cash and carry system, it requires much amount of capital. But if you purchase the fixed assets on a higher purchase or on an installment, it requires less amount of fixed capital. This is also one point. That is method of acquiring fixed asset. ನೀವು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಅಂಶ ಬೇರೆ ಅದ. ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಕು. ನೀವು ಉದ್ರಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. Then diversification. Next item, sixth item is diversification. If you are introduced one method, if you divert from method to the new one, that is advanced technology. If you turn from the old to the advanced technology, it requires much amount of capital. Diversification of production or operations is another important factor affecting the fixed capital. Then amount of promotion expenses. Amount of promotion expenses. Promotion expense means expansion or growth. It also requires much amount of fixed capital. These are the important factors which affect the fixed capital, or these are the important factors which determine the fixed capital. With this, today's discussion is over.